They made single dad wait all day in the lobby, unaware he signs every single one of their paychecks. At 7:15 that morning, Daniel Carter walked into the glass headquarters of one of the most powerful companies in the city with a worn leather folder under his arm and a small photograph of his 8-year-old daughter tucked inside his wallet. He had spent 3 hours traveling across town just to attend one important meeting. Yet by noon, nobody had offered him a chair in the executive conference room. By 4, the receptionist was still telling him to wait. And while employees walked past him laughing, pointing, and whispering about how out of place he looked in his simple gray suit, not one of them knew the truth. The man they were humiliating in the lobby was the owner of the company, and every single paycheck they received ultimately carried his signature. If you believe kindness, respect, and second chances matter, take a moment to like this video, share it with someone who needs to hear this story, and subscribe to Echoes of Kindness so we can continue bringing you stories that remind us never to judge someone by what they appear to have. Daniel had never been the kind of man who needed to prove his worth. Years earlier, he had been an ordinary employee with a modest salary, a loving wife, and a dream of building something meaningful. Then tragedy changed everything. His wife passed away unexpectedly, leaving Daniel alone to raise their little daughter, Emma. He became father, mother, cook, driver, teacher, and protector all at once. There were nights when he sat at the kitchen table long after Emma had fallen asleep, calculating bills and wondering how he could give his child a better future. Instead of giving up, he worked harder. He eventually created a small technology company from his apartment, using borrowed money and an old laptop. That company grew faster than anyone imagined, eventually becoming Carter Holdings, a corporation with hundreds of employees and offices across the country. But Daniel never changed the way he looked at people. He still remembered what it felt like to be ignored, underestimated, and treated as though his struggles made him less valuable. That was why, on that particular morning, he chose to visit one of his newest corporate offices without announcing himself. He wanted to see how ordinary employees and visitors were treated when the owner wasn't standing beside them. The experience was worse than he expected. The receptionist glanced at Daniel's inexpensive watch and slightly wrinkled suit before asking whether he had an appointment. When he explained that he was there to meet the regional management team, she looked doubtful. She told him to sit in the lobby and wait. 30 minutes became 2 hours. 2 hours became 5. Several executives passed him without even looking in his direction. One manager laughed with his colleagues while pointing toward Daniel, who was sitting quietly with his folder resting on his knees. Another employee joked that people like him probably came looking for jobs every day. Daniel heard everything. Still, he remained silent. He thought about Emma. He remembered teaching her that a person's character was revealed not by how they treated powerful people, but by how they treated those who could do nothing for them. So Daniel stayed seated. He didn't threaten anyone. He didn't reveal his identity. He simply watched. At nearly 5 in the afternoon, the regional director finally walked through the lobby. He stopped when he saw Daniel and immediately recognized the folder in his hands. His face changed. The confidence disappeared from his eyes because he suddenly understood what had happened. The man sitting quietly in the lobby wasn't a job applicant. He wasn't a delivery worker. He wasn't a stranger looking for assistance. He was Daniel Carter, the owner. The man whose company paid every salary in that building. Within minutes, the laughter stopped. The receptionist stood frozen behind her desk. The executives who had ignored Daniel suddenly appeared nervous. The manager who had mocked his appearance lowered his eyes. But Daniel didn't shout. He didn't fire everyone. Instead, he slowly walked into the conference room and placed the folder on the table. Inside were reports from the entire day, including employee observations, security footage, and customer complaints. Daniel explained that he had come there to evaluate the culture of the company, not simply its profits. The numbers were excellent, but the behavior was unacceptable. Then something unexpected happened. Daniel noticed the receptionist quietly crying. She wasn't crying because she was afraid of losing her job. She was crying because she had spent months being treated badly by the same managers who were now begging for forgiveness. Daniel realized that the problem wasn't one rude employee. It was a culture where everyone feared someone above them and took that frustration out on someone below them. So instead of creating more fear, Daniel created accountability. He removed the regional director from his position, required management training, and introduced a new policy that every employee, from the newest receptionist to the highest executive, would be evaluated not only on performance, but also on how they treated people. Before leaving, Daniel returned to the lobby and thanked the receptionist for being honest with him earlier, then handed her a small card with an unexpected promotion opportunity. He told her that mistakes could be corrected, but cruelty could never become a company culture. That evening, Daniel drove home to Emma. She was waiting at the door with a drawing she had made at school. She had drawn herself holding her father's hand beneath a giant yellow sun. Daniel smiled as he looked at it, realizing that no promotion, profit, or title could ever compare to the life he had built with her. The next morning, the company felt different. Employees greeted one another differently. Managers listened more carefully. The receptionist smiled at people who entered the building. And slowly, the company became more than a successful business. It became a place where people felt respected. Daniel never told Emma about the humiliation he had experienced that day. He simply told her that sometimes people forget how powerful kindness can be. And perhaps that was the greatest lesson of all. Because the men they thought was insignificant had the power to change their careers, their workplace, and their lives, but instead of using his power to punish them, he used it to teach them. If this story touched your heart, please like the video, share it with someone who believes in treating every person with dignity, and subscribe to Echoes of Kindness. Your support helps these emotional stories reach people who may need their message. Before the story ends, comment, "Kindness always wins," if you believe we should never judge someone by their clothes, appearance, or position in life. Daniel walked out of the building that evening holding Emma's drawing in his hand, and for the first time that day, he smiled. He had entered the building wanting to discover what kind of people worked for him. He left knowing something far more important: real power isn't having the ability to hurt someone who hurt you. Real power is choosing kindness when you have every reason to choose revenge.